Okay, welcome to Flexbox tutorial part 1. In this video I'm going to go through all the properties on the parent container, or the Flex container as it's known. So I'll just go to codepen.io and sign up for an account. It's free, and once you've signed up, just go into pen there, do a new pen. You can get rid of the JavaScript, minimize JavaScript editor, and you can set up your CSS preprocessor to SAS, SCSS, save and close, and then you'll be ready to go. I have one already set up here, so I was messing around with this earlier just to get ready, so I'll just delete all of this and we'll start from scratch. So for the HTML first, I'll use Emmet. So in CodePen, Emmet is already set up for your HTML, and it's just a quicker way to write HTML. So a dot signifies a div, and then the arrow signifies children, so dot item, and we'll multiply that by 6, and we'll add the name of whatever we want to put into the element. Or we'll just call it flex item. Flex item, and we give it a number as well. So a $sign signifies a number. So basically the dot signifies a div, and then we have the classic container, and then we have the children. So we have children, another div dot item times 6, and then inside in that curly braces we put in whatever we want inside in each element. So we're just putting in flex item, and then the $sign signifies the number in order of elements. So then you just press tab and you're done, and it's just a quick way to write HTML. So onto the CSS, I'm just going to do a quick reset. Zero. And for the box sizing, border box, that's just going to reset the defaults on our CSS. For the container, I'm going to do the items. I'm just going to do a background color of something gray, and give it a padding maybe. 1 rem. A rem is, the default for rem is 16 pixels, so 1 rem is 16 pixels. For the items, give a background color purple. Give it a white color. Size maybe 1.5 rem. give it a padding of 1 rand as well. And that's basically it. So we'll start with the flex. How do we turn this container into a flex container? It's very simple. You just do display flex. Now they're all lined up, but we can't see the difference between them. We could put in a margin on this one here. Margin 10 pixels. And then you can see it, but there's a better way to do it. This puts margin on right around each item, but the way to do it on flex is you can just do row gap or column gap, but the shorthand is gap, and I'll just give it the 10 pixels like I did for the other one. The difference being that the gap doesn't it basically only applies to column lines and row lines. So flex column lines and row lines. So it doesn't affect the outer, anything outside that. So that's that. So you got the next property that we'll look for on the flex container or parent is flex direction. So the flex direction. So flex direction has 4 properties you can do. You can do row reverse, column, or column reverse. So if we do row, nothing happens because that is the default, and once you set up the container as a flex container using display flex, the flex direction is actually defaulted to row. So you don't use that. You only use this if you're changing it at some stage. So row, you could have row reverse, and you can see what that does. It just starts from right to left instead of left to right. Same for column. So column. So basically, I've got an easier way to show you this. So the flex direction. So with row, the main axis is right to left, and the cross axis is up and down. So I'll just show you this. I have a better visual of this. So this is from Joy Shaheb. You can look her up on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube. So the flex container is in grey, and the items, or the children flex items, are in white, A, B, C. So as you can see in the red here, when you set up the flex container as a Flexbox, the main axis goes from right to left, and the cross axis goes up and down. If you set it to column, if you set like display flex, if you set flex direction to column, so now it's right to left, the main axis, and the cross axis is up and down. If you set it to column, the main axis is basically going top to bottom, and the cross axis is going right to left. So it just switches the orientation. So it's always best to know which way the main axis is. So you need to know what the flex direction is, column or row, when you're dealing with a Flexbox. So they're the properties that you can have on flex direction. I'll put it back to row for the time being. It's easier to visualize. Next on the list we have flex wrap. So flex wrap basically, okay, so in order to show you this, look, I'll show you. So we've got 6 items here, but they don't fill out the whole container. So if we add another 12, what will happen? See, it's after overflowing the container. You probably better see this if we actually give the container a width. So if I gave the container a width of 1200 pixels. So you can see it's after overflowing the container. And I'll just give it a margin as well. 20 pixels top and bottom, and all up to center it. So as you can see, our flex containers have completely overflown the container. If I set this to wrap, so flex wrap, you see it takes all the items and wraps them, so it just wraps them around like you would in a word processor or whatever, and it does it all automatically and figures out how everything goes. So that's pretty cool. Flex wrap has three properties you can use on it. So it's no wrap, wrap, and wrap reverse. The default is no wrap, so no wrap is what we had. That's the default. Then you got wrap, and then you got wrap reverse. So wrap reverse is kind of self-explanatory. It just goes the other way around. So that's pretty self-explanatory. So we'll just leave it on wrap at the moment. The next one we have is, oh yeah, before I go there, you've got flex flow, which is basically shorthand. So the shorthand for flex direction and flex wrap will be flex flow. Flex flow. So if I just do row wrap, nothing's going to happen because I'm just giving them the same values. But as you know, cascading style sheets, they take the latest one in the CSS. So the last definition in the CSS will override everything else. So as this is below these ones, this is going to override what's up here. So I can just do column, so flex flow column wrap. Okay, I've just got a typo there. So flex flow column wrap. If I do no wrap, and I go back, I'll just put it back to what it was. So that's just shorthand for these two up here. The next property is justify content. So justify content aligns the items along the main axis. So it's got a couple of properties. I'll just do the main ones. So it would be flex start, flex end, center, space between, space around, and space evenly. So justify content, flex start. So remember, this is along the main axis. So it will be easier for me to take out some of these. So I'll just go back to what we had in the beginning. So now we just got our 6 again. So flex start, it's the same thing, it doesn't really matter. So that's the default. So we do end, it pushes it out to the other side. So it's along, justify content is spacing things out. So it's basically aligning the items along the main axis. So we have flex direction set to row, so it's left to right is our main axis at the moment. So if I do center, you see it spaces out perfectly in the center, all the items. Space evenly, or space between. Space between. Space between is basically giving the perfect space between each item. Space around gives us this space here is double what the space is. So it has an even number of space on either side. So the ones that have a flex box between them, so this flex box has two spaces. So this space here is double that, if you get my meaning. So space round and space evenly is very subtle. Space evenly, now you see this space is exactly the same as this space, and exactly, so they're spaced evenly along the container. So that's like, you could do a nice header with that, you know, or nav bar on the top or something. So that's a pretty handy thing to have. So they're the main ones for justify content. The next one we'll go for is align items. So align items is going to basically, it defines the default behavior for how flex items are laid out along the cross axis on the current line. So it's to do with single lines of items. So I'll just kind of explain that a little bit better now in a minute. But so align items has basically 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Five properties. It has more. It has some other properties that are not really used that much, but these are the main ones. So stretch, flex start, flex end, center, and baseline. So I'll just show you here. Stretch is the default, so we can't see stretch in action yet because our container has a kind of a dynamic height. We haven't fixed it. So if I just put in a height here of 400 pixels, you see what happens? All the items stretch, and that's because align items is already defaulting to stretch. So stretch, that's the default. So we can also do flex start, and that brings it to the top of the container. End brings it to the bottom of the container. Center, and baseline you won't see it doing anything here because baseline aligns the items based on, so the text in the element, the bottom of the text, so the base of the line of text, it will align it through that. And the only way you can see that now is if I change two of these. I'll just make 4, we'll take 4 and 2. Item 4 and 2, so we just change the font size and then to size, and we'll give that 40 pixels, and we'll give this 10 pixels, but we'll also give this a height of 60 pixels. Okay, didn't get the height because I didn't give it. Okay, 60 pixels probably isn't enough there, so we give it 150 pixels. So you can see here, look, flex item 1, it's aligned perfectly with all, even the small text. The base of the line is aligned perfectly. That's what baseline does. You'll see it better if I just center these again. So center, you can see they're after going offline here now, so that's the flex at the top. This one is kind of all over the place. So that's what baseline does. It aligns them all. It aligns the actual text in the box with each other. So that's baseline. The next one is align content. So align content, just like justify content. I'll just put these back first actually. So we'll set them to center, I suppose. I'll take out the CSS on those two because we don't need them anymore. So align content is very similar to justify content, except it aligns the items along the cross axis. So we have a few, they're basically the same as the other ones, very similar to justify content, same properties, except we have another one called stretch, which we don't have on justify content. So they're very similar. The difference is that this align content really doesn't come into play unless you have multiple lines and you have flex wrap enabled. So we have flex wrap enabled, we just don't have multiple lines, so we'll give it some more lines here before we do anything. And we might give it, let me take out 3 of them just to something strange. Okay, we have an error right here. Oh, that's because we haven't done anything with it. So flex start. So you can see it aligns the lines to the start. Very similar to justify content. Flex end, bottom, space between. It gives it a nice wide space between the two lines again. So each one of these is a flex line, so it's either a row or a column, so depending on the direction. So you can do center as well. And space evenly. So it's pretty cool. It's great for design. Stretch probably won't work now because we've got the other one. So stretch, yeah, is not working because we have align items set to center. So this will stretch it out. So that's basically it on the, actually the other thing I wanted to do is, yeah, no, I've already said that, so I just wanted to get the gap in. So for gap, the gap is a shorthand, so you have row gap, that would be for the rows. So if I just turn this off here, and we put the row gap to 10 pixels, you can see each row, the gap on each row on the row has 10 pixels. If we set that to 1 pixel, and if we increase the height, you see the gap between them is small. The column gap then is the same thing. Column gap is, so the column gap is in between each column. So there's 5 in between each column, and then there's 1 pixel between each row. We could make that 10. It's not giving me the full thing because we have stretch on this. Align. Let me just take that out. So we should actually change that to center. So that's basically row gap is going to give you between the rows, and between the columns then would be, so you can do things like that. So it's a pretty cool design. And that's it for the parents properties. I'm going to leave it at that now, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. We'll look at the children, the properties of children then. So I'll see you then.